Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books. Today I'm here to talk about books number 16 through 20 on the books I've read in 2023. It's been a while since I filmed an update on the books I'm reading, and so I need to catch up. So let's get right to it. Book number 11. No, I keep saying 11. Book number 16 that I read in 2023 was Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshing. This is a book written set in northern Canada, in a remote Canadian area on a native reservation. This is a known voices book, which I really appreciated. It's also a post-apocalyptic book, which I'm really into. Anytime I come across a post-apocalyptic book, I want to add it to my TBR. And so I'm glad I finally got to this one. In this one, there is something that happens. We don't know. We just know that on this remote native reservation in Canada, all of a sudden the power goes out. This is not entirely surprising on this reservation. They'd gone through these kind of power outages years in the past, but in recent times, power had been pretty stable on the reservation. But all right, everything goes off. They're immediately organizing to help each other out, and very soon they come to the realization that this is not just a regular old power outage, that this is something else. And so we begin seeing how the community begins organizing the kind of issues that rise up with lack of preparation for winter, and the idea of like what people that prepare using traditional native practices versus people that don't prepare at all for winter, now that what happens to them now that there is no like connection to the outside. Except there is a little bit of connection to the outside. There were two boys who had been like off at college in the nearest town. They make their way in, and it's through them that we kind of see what happens outside of the reservation. Although it's not about what happens, like we never fully understand what happened that made everything crash down. We just know that it does happen, and then the kind of dynamics that develop on this reservation and this struggle versus preserving native practices versus trying to maintain technological connection to the outside world. And I really appreciated this book for that. It's also very atmospheric. It's one of those books that like you sense something's coming the whole time. You sense something's coming. So you're like on the edge of your seat the whole time. And yet it's not one of those books where there's going to be some twist that's going to come and like all of a sudden they're all dead or something like that. No, it's not that kind of book. It's one that I think if you like post-apocalyptic books, if you're looking to read more books by native authors, I recommend this one. Content warnings though for cannibalism, for a potential sexual assault, for violence. There are some graphic hunting scenes at the very beginning of this book. So if you are someone who cannot handle some of these things, I think you might want to steer clear. But if you can, I think this is a book that is worth checking out. The next book that I finished was The End of Policing by Alex S. Vitale. So I'm kind of late to the game in finding this book. I haven't read a lot of these kind of police abolition books. My approach to police abolition has been through the historical side, and it's through an understanding of the history that I have come to support the abolition movement. So reading some of these texts that I feel like it feels like everyone else has already read has been really interesting to me. This one I really, really liked. I liked the way that they use a kind of statistics and just studies, attempts at reform that have happened, and how the author deconstructs some of those attempts at reform to show us how reform has not been successful time and time again. And really what you're left with then is reform hasn't done much good, and what is needed then is abolition, and there's a discussion of what abolition looks like. And I think for people who want specifics on what that looks like, this might be the better book to start with rather than other books. I really loved Angela Davis's though. I think that's a great place to start, but I think if you're beyond the kind of the accepting that police abolition could be a reality. Maybe this is the next step to look at here. So most of the stuff in this particular book was not really new to me, but I still found it to be a really strong book, and it helped me continue having some of this conversation about abolition with people in my life. So I really appreciated it for that. The next book that I finished on my list was The Dead Will Tell. This is book number 6 in the Kate Burkholder series by Linda Castillo. This is one of those series that I started years ago, and I kind of keep coming back to every once in a while. So I haven't like binge read this series in a long time, but I really enjoy aspects of this series. I think the character of Kate Burkholder is really well done. She is kind of the stereotypical like troubled police chief, but the conflict for this character comes from her past, especially her Amish past, and so that brings in like a really interesting twist to the story, especially because as police chief she has to navigate and be a connection between the Amish community in this rural Ohio area versus the rest of the population. The particular murder mystery in this book was not super satisfying to me. I felt like it was very odd. It plays on the idea of ghost, and it's like this is not a paranormal book, so like okay, ultimately it's not going to end up being a ghost in it, but that ghostly element was strong in this one, which just felt out of place in the series for me. But I would still give it probably a solid like 3 stars because I'm going to keep reading in the series, and in fact I'm currently reading book number 7 in the series. Next on my list was Too Soon for Adios by Annette Chavez Macias. I have a dedicated review to this book on my channel, so I will link it below in case you're interested. It's a recent review, so you can also just click on my profile and see that there. The book follows Gabby, a Mexican-American woman who is burying her mother. We meet her when she is at the funeral. In comes this man who says he is her biological father, and he has an offer for her. Well, Gabby is like not interested in this, is not interested in the offer, is not interested in this person until she meets that offer. And then we spend the rest of the book following Gabby in Sonrisa, New Mexico, as she's navigating kind of her economic situation with the emotional situation of dealing with grief and rediscovering things about this branch of the family that she doesn't know. It's a really good book. At the beginning, the first like 2-3 chapters I found a little bit rough. I read an arc that the author sent to me, so that might be different in the final draft, but after I got through those first 3 chapters, I was deep in the story. I was really interested in Gabby. She's a chef, so we see a lot of cooking scenes, a lot of that connection with food and dealing with grief in a really positive way, I felt like. So I really enjoyed this book. And then the last book I will discuss in this video is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. So this is a reread for me. I read it early in 2023, but I had to pick it up in Spanish and reread it this way. I listened to the audiobook, which was really, really fantastic. And on reread and reading it in Spanish, this book is just as good as I felt the first read of it was. Definitely a 5-star read for me. Then the story you start with a father and son as they are kind of on the run from a cult. It turns out the cult is deeply connected to these 2 characters and to the boy's mother. The boy's mother was a part of the cult and a like blood member of it. Like her family was one of the original founding families of this cult. And so the rest of it is this really dark exploration of magic, beliefs, really dark elements, along with just physical and psychological damage, with the physical and psychological damage that this cult does to the people we are following. We do cover an expansive period of time. We start, what was it, post World War II-ish, 1950s. Well, we take one of the chapters takes us back to then and takes us all the way into the present, and we view it through the eyes of the father, the son, the mother, and a couple of other characters. And so we get this like historical view of this cult. It's also, when we start, it's set in Argentina during the dictatorship in Argentina. And so you get a little bit of that like political setting. But really it's this analysis of these characters and their relationships to one another. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful, 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 but deeply dark and kind of scary book. So tons of content warnings that I listed in the dedicated review I did to this one. So, there's sexual assault, sexual harassment. There's a lot of body horror, blood. There is child abuse. There is just physical abuse. There's just a lot of really bad things that happen in this book. But I thought that it's basically a book about a lot of those abuses. So it's not going to be a book for everyone, but if you can handle it, I think it is worth checking out if it interests you at all. So that's it. Those are books number 16 through 20 in the books that I've read in 2023. If you've read any of these, if you have any thoughts, let me know down in the comments section. I always love talking about any of these books. And so I'm happy when I encounter people that have read them as well, or that might be interested in them. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.